As we speak, I'm actually getting ready to travel to attend the Association for Contemporary Jewellery 25th anniversary conference titled Beyond Silver, which is running from the 1st to the 3rd of July 2022 in Exeter and online. In order to understand a little better how the association promotes contemporary jewellery, supports jewellers' development and helps develop audiences for the lively field of contemporary craft and design, and since the association is celebrating this incredibly big birthday through a range of events and a great exhibition, I thought I'd connect with Anthony Wong, who is a director for the association Contemporary Jewellery. So, without further ado, welcome Anthony.
Hi Sophie, how are you doing?
Great, thanks. So Anthony, to kickstart our conversation, could you share a little bit about yourself, what it is you do, and what your role is for the Association of Contemporary Jewellery?
Sure, yeah. I would class myself as an artist, so an umbrella title of artist, and within that I make in all manner of materials, even though generally I'm classed as a jeweller. I'm a maker of objects that people call jewellery, and I think that's a nice broad term to apply to a lot of makers, because it opens up and encompasses a lot more than jeweller. So I run my practice from Liverpool, from the Blue Coat Arts Centre. I've got a fabulous studio there, I'm very lucky. I became a director, I'm probably going to get the year wrong now, but it was probably about 4 or 5 years ago. I'm probably wrong. But I became a director on the board. I'd originally joined in 2004. So quite a long time with the association. And from the very first meeting and the very first conversation, they have been very supportive to me. And as a new maker in 2004, an emerging maker, that was a real boost, and I got into one of the main exhibitions at that time in Bristol Museum and Galleries. So that was a real step up for me, in that I came from a traditional goldsmithing background where I'd been doing fine art and then took a 6-year apprenticeship. So it was an entrance into a world that I'd been looking for, but actually didn't know existed. That's how I came about the association. And when I dove into it, I realised very quickly that it was a group of friendly people who'd started the association up, knew that there was a need to connect jewellers and makers. And that's how it had come about. So Norman Cherry was one of the founding members. And Terry Hunt has been integral, and Tamsin Seville, who unfortunately lost early on in the year.
For those listening who do not know what the Association for Contemporary Jewellery is, could you maybe share a little bit more about the association, its aims and objectives, and maybe why it's great to be a member?
Yeah, we've got lots of ways of encouraging new makers in the way of discounts on our membership. We have supported 8 places for this particular conference, so 8 free places for students. We also have like an access programme. And also, at any point in time when anybody wants to know any information off anybody else, they can get in touch with them. So it's very friendly and open association in that way, in that it started with a group of like-minded, friendly individuals. It's got to be a bigger animal than we ever thought it would be. So I think probably the main advantage of joining the association is that it does give you a connection to other jewellers. And I think that crafts such as jewellery, ceramics, glass, pottery, all this kind of stuff, whatever you make or your art form is, it can be an isolating life. So any connections that you have, or anyone that you can tap into to give you advice at any level that you find yourself working from, is brilliant. Globally, you have a better understanding of what is happening. Nationally, you do as well. Realizing that, you're not the only person tapping away. I know and also there's an aim. So there are different levels. So there are people who have been hobbyists, maybe they've taken an interest, they're a collector, they suddenly switch over and they start to make. That introduction level can be encouraged to step further up and further up. So it's the encouragement. It's also things like discounts with trade. We get a lot of discounts. So we get discounts with a whole list. I'm not going to go through them. We got a whole list of discounts from various suppliers. I think it's going to start to go into services. Also, connections with people who are members who, work within the industry, within the education industry. So then you can be asking advice about courses and where the best way to do this is or that. So I think overall, that's the support that you can get at any level. And for the very small amount that membership starts and finishes at, there's lots of different levels. On the website, which is acj.org.uk, that is the website, and that's where all the information is and all the links for everything that we're ever involved in. The other good thing as a member is the membership selective exhibitions, because we've always managed to get some fantastic venues, and this particular conference has got meanings and messages running alongside as a 60 brooch travelling exhibition. That exhibition, Jo Hayward, I'm going to mention her, has been pivotal in organising that and securing some fantastic venues. And the first one was at Gravesend that opened up, and it opened with a complimentary engagement activity. And all the time, actually, Jo is adding into these complementary activities as it goes on. There's another idea for this, and it will obviously go forward. But to be involved in something like that is fantastic. I think that's running now for, I think it's maybe 18 months. I'm not quite sure on the final date, but 18 months over, I think it's 6 venues. Maybe again, there's a lot of information that is running periphery to this conference, but yeah, that's the few of the things that you can gain from.
Touching upon these sort of exhibitions, which meanings and messages is the one that you're referencing and that travels around. Could you tell me a little bit more about how that then works? Did you have an open call and people submitted work? And what was the thinking behind the title?
So the open call was to make a brooch. It could be any material, any colour. What the brooch had to contain was a meaning or a message within that. So we've had from a situation where a letter was cut up and had literally words in it. The thing about it is the brooch is really easy to place on the body. It's got no gender or placement, or it's got no level to it in that way. So it's a very lovely object to be chosen as the object. The meanings and messages is because we've come through COVID, and underlying all that is we're looking for, was my personal take on it, we're looking for a way forward and to communicate in such a way that promotes a deeper understanding of ourselves as human beings. That was my take on the meanings and messages when we came up with the title for it. So you were able to, at that point, take it at any level you wished. And then what happened was, as the pieces started to come in, and then the 60 were chosen, when the 60 were grouped, they naturally fell into different categories. Some were about the effect of COVID, some were about the mental state that people had been enduring, some were simply about a message to be passed on to somebody else, some were about an environmental perspective. So naturally they found themselves their own title categorized. That's how their meanings and messages came.
The Association for Contemporary Jewellery also publishes a great magazine titled Findings. Could you tell us a little bit more about how listeners can access the magazine, what it aims to do, and perhaps how anyone could get in touch, or if you want people to get in touch with stories?
And when you become a member, you get your publications sent to you, or you can access it online. The purpose of that is to have something tangible, a hard copy of. It's quite unusual to have a magazine, crafts magazine, obviously, but it puts down in a tangible form. Each issue has an overriding theme to it. So it might be laser etching, color forming. It might be, it might be everything surrounding that. It might be CAD. It might be some more traditional aspect of form folding or something like that. So it's each issue does have an overriding theme, and the editor in role at the moment, she quite naturally, it's quite interesting because quite naturally the stories come to her, and then she realizes that at the moment the hot vibe is one of these topics, and so the overriding theme for that particular issue will be whatever is actually coming to her, because quite naturally, again, it's forming its own path. So the other thing that there are competitions that are they're published in there. Any members news is published in there. Any notices, some adverts for suppliers and things like that. So yeah, and anything else that's going on is of interest. You can simply get in touch with Joe and say, I found this interesting. I think it's worthy of going in the publication. What do you think? And then you take it from there with her. Really.
So this year, the Association for Contemporary Jewellery, its 25th anniversary sort of celebrations, is running a conference. The title of this conference is Beyond Silver, and it was inspired by the work of Marianne Unger. Are you happy to share a little bit more about the conference, what you're hoping that will happen, and how important it is for the contemporary jewellery field, or the field of makers, to join together and discuss, and online and physically together?
Sure. So, I mean, I think physically, it's become unusual to meet. So I think physically, it's going to be quite exciting for people to actually see each other after all this time, because there has been a hiatus in actual physical contact. So because people have already made their connections, it's really not that cliquey. It isn't. It's quite welcoming in that way, in that, people have known each other for quite a while in there, so they're re-meeting people, but it's not to say that they're not welcoming to new members. And so in that way, the physical, actually holding a conference where you spend an intensive period of time, be it like 1, 2 or 3 days, actually staying within the same area, and you will conversations of a much deeper level between individuals and groups. Live streaming, again, is the first time that we've done this. So I'm hoping that it will then promote people to join the association and get involved, and possibly think about considering coming to maybe one of the next conferences, or, applying to be part of one of the exhibitions or visit one of the shows, or, but basically it's making those connections which end up being quite strong friendships, support systems.
And what are the topics that you hope we'll be discussing at the conference? Do you have any speakers that you're really looking forward to hearing, or that you've invited that you're very exciting is coming? And how, if anyone is listening and they are in time for the conference, could anyone still join at this stage?
So in reverse order, on Eventbrite, on the website, you can still join as to live stream it. So you can access it in that way. Delegate places, possibly, you can still land from the sky, or just get in touch via the website through the enquiries email, and then somebody will pick that up, and they will take that forward and discuss whether it's possible. Well, I mean, to be honest, the number of speakers is high, and the fact that it runs over it runs over, in essence, 3 days, because it takes in Friday evening and Saturday evening. So it's an intensive conference. The main introductory speaker, Jivan Astrak, she's going to speak. So she's pivotal, and Theo Smith is pivotal. And there's lots of things that are happening on the Saturday afternoon that are running in parallel, and their access program, which is kind of like a chance to engage at a much less formal level, in effect. I'm also speaking twice for my sins. So yeah, I mean, I think if you went on the website, you'd find out that the rundown of the speakers is quite extensive.
And are there any topics, Anthony, that you're really keen for us to all engage in at this moment in time as a community?
Yeah, we've got some amazing speakers. We've got a really big, long list of speakers, and it ranges from graduates who are given their papers, an overview of their papers through a talk. So we've got that broad spectrum range of speakers. But the interesting thing is, like Emma Paragrian from the Sheffield Assay Office, we've got here speaking, who you wouldn't generally necessarily get to hear what goes on behind the scenes and how they can help you in that way. It's a little bit of a mystery, that part of the industry, unless you go and visit the assay offices. And we've got things happening like interviews to work out ways through commissioning pieces. So for those people who aren't in the industry, things like that I think are going to be really eye-openers into exactly how much goes into that sort of process. I'm speaking on a very personal level, from a very personal perspective. So even though it is an academic talk, mine is from a very personal storytelling sort of perspective.
So aside from these sort of things we've just highlighted, is there anything else that we can look forward to with the Association for Contemporary Jewellery? Is there anything in the pipeline that you're welcome to already share that we can all look forward to in the future?
With the association, there's always something going on, but unfortunately, I can't share that with you right now. We're having a little bit of shift around in the staff that we're getting. A new admin, and the editor is still staying in role of findings. But what generally happens is, throughout the year, there are lots of small opportunities and medium-sized opportunities to engage with the association and be involved at some level. But as I say, every 5 years-ish, we have a conference, and then regular members' exhibitions. These are the things that keep on tapping at you to make you stop and think a little bit about applying and exposing yourself to, a wider or a different audience that you may have not been able to show how wonderful you are. True. So that's the good thing about the association. The other thing is getting feedback off peers. A lot of people who graduate, I'm going to talk about new voices now, they graduate and they go into the jewellery world and they're fishing around for comment, for feedback, because they've been in the courses and they've been supported with that feedback and they get used to it. I did my master's at Royal College just recently. I was used to the feedback, and then COVID came and the feedback dropped. And I really felt the difference between the two phases. So yeah, there's always something going on in the background, but unfortunately I can't share it at the moment. Watch this space.
Jewellery is of course much more than the sum of its parts. With the very well chosen title Beyond Silver, I'm excitedly looking forward to joining the 25th anniversary conference of the Association for Contemporary Jewellery to discuss the medium in today's context. In a time where sustainability is at the forefront of most manufacturing discussions, And when material sourcing from around the world shifts in response to major political and humanitarian developments, it is important jewelers engage in discussions on the challenges the field faces, the opportunities and good practices that exist, and of course, the future of the medium. From the list of speakers, I believe we will cover these and many more relevant topics in the conference, and I'm happy to share that the next month's podcast will involve any of you who did not have the opportunity to join online or in person. But for now, I would really like to thank Anthony, firstly for his hard work as part of the association, and of course for speaking to me today. Thank you so much for all of your time and your dedication.
Thank you very much for inviting me to speak. It was a pleasure.
Super. Next month, I'll be inviting a range of guests, so watch this space to find out who they will be. But for now, this was Sophie Boons for the BAJ podcast episode titled Messages and Meanings with Anthony Wong. Thank you for listening and have a wonderful day.